What's going on, everybody? It's SJG, and welcome to HBCU Game Day. And we have a very special guest for you guys. She is, I would say, the premier analyst regarding HBCU basketball overall right now. She's an encyclopedia of everything that's going on right now in the here and now. And I was lucky enough to get her to come on, and she was like, "You mean like it with my face?" I was like, "Of course, your face." We love you for your brain and your face. So the one and only Liv Antilla, aka Liv for Hoops. Liv, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I know we saw each other twice in the last month, first at the CIAA and then over at the MEAC. And then since then, there's been so many basketball games, NCAA tournament, women's NIT, which I know you're watching right now, which Coppin State is doing their thing. And we wish them well. And then, obviously the WBIT as well, the NAIA, the NCAA D2. Are
Mhm.
you basketballed out yet?
I'm slow. I will say the games are not basketballing me out. It's really that portal that has me just like my mind overload, very like it's intense. The amount of names I'm seeing across the board, not even just from HBCU players, but across the board between D1 all the way to D3, it's about around 3,000-ish players,
Right.
which is a lot. And so that's trying to keep up with the portal right now. My head's on a swivel everywhere I go because it's like every 5 minutes a different player is doing their with much consideration and prayer and talks with my family. I've decided to enter the transfer portal, the same graphic. So,
The day after signing with my agent, all of that stuff. Yeah.
yep, always.
Right before it. Nah, yeah, there's definitely the portal. I mean, that's the title for tonight. The portal giveth and the portal taketh. And but it's not just the players.
Mhm.
It is also the coaches as well. Again, the last time you and I saw each other was over at the MEAC tournament. And Norfolk State obviously has been the class of that league, and some would say HBCU basketball over the last 3 years. Um, and they got the championship won again. And literally, as soon as there was still, I think, confetti coming down in Norfolk when I saw you were already gone, but you were talking about how hinting that this might be it for Coach Vickers. I know you keep your ears to the street, not only with the players but also with the coaches. Just talk about Coach Vickers. Going to Auburn, kind of what inklings you had, and then the whole thing kind of coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I tweeted that and then everyone was like, "What?" And I was like, "Isn't this kind of like common sense?" I think, the last 3 years, Norfolk State has been on an amazing run, and he has given the time and the effort to really build a culture and a program there, and it's paid off these last 3 years. Especially last year and this year, being consistently in the mid-major top 25 and consistently climbing the ranks, hitting as high as number 4 this year, that was unheard of. First, we're like begging them to put them in the top 10. Then they hit number 4. Pair that with the two SEC wins they had when they played Alabama. At the time, Alabama was ranked number 22 in the nation. They went down to the wire with Alabama, and I think people forget that. And then just, they only, prior to the loss against Maryland, they only had 4 losses. So when you look at his resume, they went back to back to back MEAC champs, 3 NCAA tournament appearances. All 3 times they were higher seeds than they were the last time, beating SEC teams with his mid-major team, because that's the reality of what we are. HBCUs are mid-majors. So going into Power fours and beating them on their home floor. That says a lot about who he is as a coach. And so I was not surprised. I had heard, I just knew the schools were to come with Brinks trucks and they were like, we're ready. We're ready. Like to take an opportunity on a new coach. If you've seen and been paying attention, there are a lot of head coaches at P4 institutions currently being relieved of their duties. And quite a few of them have been filled with mid-major coaches. And so, I'm very happy for Vickers that he's gotten this opportunity and he thought it was right for him and he took it. And, I just, I didn't think what I tweeted was like, it really had people shocked. And I was like, why? Like, and I think although we would love for him to stay and, build every players, ADs, coaches, and even in life as humans, we hit our time in a place where we feel like we've hit our ceiling and we've done all we can do here. And why not go out with all these accolades? Again, MEAC regular season champs, tournament champs, highest seed in school history, highest ranking in school history, uh, the 30 wins in school history. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it made
I
sense. And
think
then
I think, and yeah, it makes sense, but I think, you got to look at historically, we haven't always gotten our coaches haven't always gotten those chances, like, all the way back. Like my shirt that I'm wearing today, my shirt that I'm wearing today it is Winston-Salem State. Of course, Big House Gaines, Earl Monroe, neither one of them hit the portal. They both stayed where they were at. Coach Gaines was there for 47 years, and Earl Monroe spent all 4 of his years at WSSU. So, I mean, and a lot of our great coaches, they never really got the opportunity because people never thought that they could coach, at that level. And so, you do see like a Steve Murfield who, led Hampton to beat Iowa State back in the day. Steve Murfield is white. There's only so, I think Coach Jones's predecessor, Anthony Evans, after they won the championship in 2012 and knocked off Missouri, he got the job at Florida International, but you never, and then, we've seen Deion Sanders, kind of come in and be able to get a Power Five job, but we really what we saw this week with Coach Vickers is it makes sense, but it's kind of unprecedented.
I totally agree. And I think that's just the shift that we're seeing. And I obviously, he's put in work as a coach, but I think I've said this on other platforms, the more that we as media, alum, fans of the game, etc., are talking about our coaches, our players. And although that comes with them leaving, I think it makes other people aware of them because, in my opinion, the people who vote on mid-major top 25, the people who are in these positions for seeding, who are in these like different areas of collegiate athletics, they don't always necessarily pay attention to HBCUs. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And so with his success came more publicity, more marketing, more attention. And I will say like College Insider with all those awards that they do, his name being in a lot of those lists made people pay attention. And it definitely helped that he beat Auburn. And then I think it's funny, they're like, let's take the guy that beat us.
Yeah,
But you're
not
right,
only beat them, but also, like you said, played Auburn, played Alabama tough. So I'm sure that counted for something.
played a part. Yes. And so I think, just with the more mid majors making waves, it's making people look at their coaches and maybe not be, I would say, maybe respect HBCU coaches more and not look at that as a hindrance of being like, oh, that's as good as they are, like that's where they're going to stay. I think it's like, oh, they had this success for this many years. Let's see what they can do here. And so I'm glad he's getting the opportunity and I really hope he does a great job there.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and I know we had a reporter at the MEAC, and one of the things that and I'm sorry, we had one at the Maryland game, which again was really close to them pulling off that that X that the pulling off the upset that we were all hoping for. Obviously didn't go their way. We'll talk about the NCAA in just a second. But we asked him. We had him to ask. Because those reports started coming out about Auburn earlier that day, and we'll show everybody what Coach Vickers had to say when he was asked about his future.
Them is HBCU Gameday. You mentioned the 30 games and also your 9 years being there. And that last third of your career, you probably have one of the best teams, we'll say, in HBCU basketball and the MEAC.
Yeah,
so
sure.
What's next for Coach Vickers?
Man, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't talked to my team. We all have visions and goals, and I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, so yeah, shout out to Coach Vickers for taking the question, not just giving a no comment. Obviously, he said that he hadn't spoken with his team, and obviously, that's a courtesy that all the teams should have. And we went to find out. I think Mia from Anscape reported that most of the young ladies were pretty much unaware that his name not only had come up in the Auburn job, but he was kind of the favorite to take it. So that was it just kind of take me through Saturday. That was kind of a wild day in terms of seeing it, seeing the reports come out. I think Mitchell Northam is the reporter from SB Nation that had put it out there that he was not only a candidate but possibly the guy. Just talk about what that was like for you, kind of watching it all take place on Saturday.
So when the tweet came out, usually when things say like sources tell us this is the man for the job, that means it's a done deal. Because I said, and I tweeted this, I always think it's someone from the inside of from the school they're going to that is telling somebody, because why else? I thought the timing was weird. That they decided to have it come out that day, the same day that they played. Knowing how these things work, this had to have been in the works for weeks, because you weren't interviewing that day and then they decided that was your job. So I think it is unfortunate that a few of the players, if they were on Twitter, that's how they found that out. I think that's a sad thing to experience as a player with a coach you've built a relationship for. And that's like no disrespect to Vickers, because obviously other people leaked that information. But when it came out, I was like, oh, this is a done deal. So all the things started coming out, and then people were calling it a risky hire. And then I had to get in defense mode, because I was like, hold on, wait a minute. We're not going to do that. They were using all these just like these words to be like, this was a mistake. And I was like, he hasn't even stepped. First of all, his team hasn't even played today. And then funny enough, after they played versus Maryland, the tune of a lot of people started changing online. They were like, oh, wait, we're excited about this. And so once it came out, I was like, oh, this is a done deal. And then I moved on to, okay, who's up next at Norfolk State? Like, kudos to him. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. But now who's next? Who's the coach going to replace him? Like, let's make this quick and swift and like move it along so you can keep, the momentum going.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, and I also think, yeah, like you said, that the fact that it came out the day that they were set to play, I don't know, maybe that, again, I don't know if he wins that game, maybe somebody else gives him an offer too, or someone else is looking. And I think you're right. I have, talked to a source that, says that, they were they were at the MEAC tournament. Auburn was at the MEAC tournament at some point. I didn't see them, but I've found out since then that they were there. So it's definitely for sure great for Coach Vickers. A guy who was an assistant coach on the men's team. They asked him to take over the women's program on an interim basis. I remember that, and he kind of came in and turned things around. And so, very happy for him, like you said. But then, like you said, who's next? So, Yeah, I know you. I know you're hearing something. What are you willing? What are you willing to say?
Well, I did make a tweet and I did have some sources tell me that a potential finalist for the job would be Jermaine Woods, who is the current head coach at Coppin State, who is still competing. And anyone who knows, he's had the most non-conference wins in school history, the most winningest season in like I think it was, I don't want to put out a number because I'm like on here, but it was a
Hmm.
very long time. Their first postseason appearance since 2009, their first
Yeah,
postseason win since
give him
2000.
some love for that.
Huh?
I gave him a couple pound, pound, pound,
Yeah.
pound. Yeah.
And he's also from Norfolk. He grew up there. He's from there. He has ties there. His wife is from there. And so that's just one of the people. I'm not sure on the direction, Norfolk will ultimately go, but I know that was someone that I've already heard and people, I think their alumni base, or at least some of them, not all of them, because it's a big, don't come for me, Spartan Nation, but some of them are thinking that that's their next guy, seeing his success at Coppin. And so I guess we'll see. I'm still very kind of like it might be him. And this isn't like my journalistic, this is more of just me as a person being like
Hmm.
that because they haven't made an announcement. And me knowing how these things kind of work, typically ADs call other ADs,
Hmm.
or coaches give their ADs the heads up that they are, applying and interviewing for other jobs. And so knowing that, I would hope that Norfolk was ahead of the ball and was already reaching out to like potential candidates that this is just how it works, were a fit. So hopefully we see an announcement within, I want to say like end of this week, because I'm like all these openings we are missing as HBCU institutions, we are missing the perfect opportunity right when the window opens for
Hmm.
the portal to make those connections. And so hopefully we hear something soon because I'm like tick tock. Because more and more jobs just keep opening slowly.
Well, they did go with a splash with the football hire.
They
I don't
did.
know. I mean, does Lisa Leslie have any tie? Does Lisa Leslie have any ties to the 757? I
Someone,
don't know.
someone tweeted at me and said, would it be possible to get AI? And I was like, artificial intelligence, because ain't no way Allen Iverson is coming to coach women's basketball. I don't think he would coach, period, but for sure not women. Like, I just don't see AI doing that. Maybe he would. And if he did, that place, it already sells really good for tickets. It would be sold out every single game. But I guess we'll see what direction they're not. And I will say with the Vic hire, they've shown they're not afraid to like, take a chance. And I'm not saying Vic is a chance, but just based
Well,
on
it was out of the box. I mean, they
yes.
had
Yes.
they have stayed pretty close with. I mean, again, when you talk about Jones replacing Anthony Evans, and then also Vickers himself, they kind of stayed with their own tree in the basketball, football. They kind of been all over. So yeah, we'll see. I know you said you're watching the Coppin State women and the WNIT. I know. We had four teams. Tennessee State bowed out, uh, Howard bowed out, and then also we had
Texas,
Alabama. I'm sorry,
you said Tennessee State, Texas Southern,
Texas Southern.
both
Yeah,
TSUs.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Sorry. The further West TSU, and then also Alabama A&M. Just. Overall, what are your thoughts on the postseason for women's basketball? From the HBCU lens, any, surprises, or anything that, that you feel like maybe they earn some more respect outside of our conferences this year?
Well, first, shout out to Southern for being the first SWAC women's team to get
Mhm.
an NCAA tournament win. That's
Right.
major, major history maker. So I think that was the first one. A lot of people like they smacked them for like at halftime they were up so big, and that
Hmm.
that gained HBCU basketball in Southern, especially, so much national attention. And then to have Norfolk State put on the way they did, that made people,
Hmm.
pay attention. And then this is unheard of to have four HBCU teams in the WNIT, two auto bids, and two at-large bids, all worthy of, being given bids to this tournament, and to have three of them win the first game was just, it was really good to be in this national tournament. On all of them were streaming on ESPN Plus or whatever, Flow Sports, whatever they were doing, and representing our institutions. I think when we get those opportunities, we need to take full advantage and really, get the win to show people like we're not here just to be like, oh, we made it, we're so excited. No, we're here to compete and play and show you that, like, yes, I think people outside of the HBCU world put HBCUs below mid majors just because we're all like, oh, we're an HBCU, like, and we all from whatever division, D1, D2, NAI, we wear that HBCU patch with pride, and we rep our institution so very hard. But no, we're still mid majors, very much so. And so I think they represented well. And even down to the NAIA of having two HBCU teams make it to the round of 16 in the national tournament, both teams for the first time. So Xavier and Langston women both making it there for the very first time in school history. Having two teams in the Atlantic from the CIAA making it, because Virginia State was ripped off last year. Um,
Hmm.
them both making it, I thought was major. And so just having all this representation of HBCU women's basketball and them competing and winning is just, it's what we've been waiting for, is just the opportunity to be in these places, because the talent's been there, the product's been there. It's just now these players, and I'm so happy for them, are getting those big, huge stages to show it on.
Yeah, we definitely, definitely, I know earlier this week I tweeted something, and out of all the things I tweeted this past week, this thing just kind of blew up, and I tweeted that, no HBCU men on the Division One level have gotten past the 16 seed in the last decade. But, here we have the women, Jackson State previously, and then, also Norfolk State the last couple of years, avoiding getting in that 16 in the play-in game. I think that just speaks volumes about the women's game, and also, just about the kind of coaching and talent that we've been able to draw at HBCU. So, I don't want to keep you in one lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your thoughts with the men as well?
I mean, I obviously we know they get the two auto bid for Division One, the two auto bids. I was very surprised Norfolk State got a 16 seed. I will be very honest. I thought when Jones addressed that, it was very much so true. They beat High Point on High Point's floor. That was a 13 seed, and High Point was ranked in like the top 15 for mid majors the entire year. I thought their out of conference schedule garnered them a higher seed. Now I'm talking not talking crazy high, but definitely like a 15, a 14. They definitely, I thought they earned that. I thought Alabama State winning the first NCAA game ever in school history was major. That's 2 years for sure in a row, for sure. Historians don't come for me. I just know last year Grambling won. That the men's teams from the SWAC have won that game, and it was the first time in school history. So, they're the D1s are still representing. I would say they they're taking advantage, but like we're seeing, all of them are leaving now. Which,
Yeah.
they can do what they want. This is their college experience, and I hope they take ownership of the choices and decisions they make. But
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get to that in 1 second. So I'm gonna be the bad guy here. Um, I love Coach Jones. Coach Jones, like for real, like Coach Jones, I really appreciate him. Back in 2020, I caught COVID, and this was like COVID 1.0. So this is like before you before you could get a shot. And Coach Jones checked in on me ever since then. Like, Coach Jones is my guy, and I respect everything that they've done as a program. And their team probably did, but the elephant in the room is going to be the MEAC. I mean, when you start pulling out the numbers, and as great as the High Point win was, and beating Alabama State, who did beat Southern, who I thought was the best, was right there with Norfolk State as the best HBCU men's team on the Division One level. But when you look at Maryland Eastern Shore and Coppin State, they dragged the league down already. And then, you don't lose to those teams, but the other team, because those two are in the bottom six of the net. And then you get to the teams that they did lose, right? They lost to Morgan State, who was in the 300s. They lost to Delaware State, who's in the 300s, and they lost to South Carolina State, who's just behind them a little bit at 195. But you know, it's unfortunate, but in the MEAC, you're gonna have to you can drop one. The last team to get it not to get a 16 was 2014 North Carolina Central, and that's when the Velma. And what did they do that year? Well, they won 28 games, right? They beat North Carolina State, NC State, which was huge, and then they only lost one game in the MEAC. And the way that it's going right now, and I mean, especially if you look at the MEAC now, where you've taken out, a Hampton who, traditionally in that league they did pretty well. Even if they didn't win, they were an addition to them. With it only being 8 teams and two of them are at the bottom, you really can't afford you really can't afford more than one loss if you're trying to get there. And plus, as good as that High Point win was, I think High Point was 85 on the net. I mean, High Point had, so yeah, I kind of feel like, unfortunately, because of where the MEAC is as a whole, they got where the numbers made sense. I don't know. So that's
I
that's
I just look at other 16 seed teams and I look at their schedule and what they did, and I can see where they could have been moved up to a 15. I'm not saying they would have moved up crazy or anything like that, but I just thought they're out of, I will say in conference play, typically the MEAC teams you have to run through. Like if Norfolk State would have lost one game in conference play,
mhm.
they wouldn't have gotten the seed that they got. They would have been the NCAA would have put them at a 15 seed.
Right.
They
Yeah.
would have lost a single game in conference play. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Um, I think I thought their out of conference garnered them just at least maybe one bump up and like switched with the 15. But the men just aren't putting on like the women are. And I hope everyone knows that. But I will say on the D2 level, I was very happy to see three CIAA teams make it to the Atlantic region of the NCAA D2 tournament. I was like really shocked because I know how the NCAA likes to play.
Yeah,
So
the year my Rams fall off the cliff. Yeah, and then now they want to put multiple teams in the CIAA, but now I get it. It's that was really great for VSU winning championship, Fayetteville State, and then also Bluefield State. Now they Fayetteville State and Virginia State won their games, and even though they were playing a Liberty team that's always really good and overpowers a lot of teams. They played them respectively, in Bluefield State. So,
I would
um,
say Bluefield State actually played them the best out of everybody. Um, which is I think because their coach went there. I think they play
hmm
similar styles, and so
yeah,
that fit them. But yeah, shout out to all three of those teams. And then Savannah State definitely held their own against, yeah, I will be very upfront. At the MEAC, I said, wow, Savannah State's about to get ran off the floor
hmm
because I know that that team leads the nation in scoring. They average 110 points per game. They're always in, like the last 3 years, they've been in the national championship game, and Savannah State held them 30 points under their average. It was a
hmm
close game. It was a really good game. So shout out to them too, and shout out to all the NAI teams. There was so much representation. Langston again getting to the on a down year. Everyone's like, it's a down year for Langston men. Still made it to the round of 16 in Kansas City. Stillman almost beat People don't really pay attention. Stillman almost beat the number one team. It was a single
hmm
digit loss. As a 16 seed, they balled out. So shout out to all the teams. I love seeing all the representation. I know one day teams will be seated accordingly. I thought the D2, I agreed with a lot of that. The NAI, there was some questionable things, but
hmm
what it is. We have teams, multiple teams getting into postseason play. And I think that's the objective for us to grow our brands and grow awareness and recognition for our schools.
Yeah, no doubt. As we talk again with the one and only Liv For Hoops, that she's been so gracious enough to give us her time here. We won't keep her too much longer, but we gotta talk about the P word. Yeah, and we're talking about the oh, sorry, I had to get my buttons down. That was supposed to be earlier. Anyway, we're talking about the portal. And Liv, again, I know you are a former athlete. Well, I'm sorry, you are an athlete. Hall of Famer. You played JUCO ball and then went over to Florida A&M. For those who don't know, so I'll ask you. And we talked about this previously, but just so, how do you feel about the portal, and how do you feel about it being year to year before we get into all the people that are in the portal?
It's definitely changed, and I think the NCAA has let it out of control. I'm all for people making decisions based on what they want to do, but it's gotten to a point where I'm sorry, I think it's ridiculous that a student athlete can be playing at a different school every single year. I think there are certain situations that a transfer makes sense. Like if there's a coaching change, yes, of course, makes sense. If you've gotten your degree, I think that makes sense. Like you can move on if you still have eligibility playing. But for all these people just wanting to throw their name in a hat, see how much money they can make, it's become a big old beast that can now never be contained. Seeing how in the past, like even just last year, why they got this extra year, the JUCO players and the NAIA players, because the NCAA got sued. There's no way they can track this back anymore. It's going to be up to the academic institutions to kind of put, I wouldn't want to say contracts, but put contracts in place to
Hmm.
protect not only their money, but what is now athletes are being viewed as an asset. Like we're paying you this much money, we expect this in return. And you know what? Sign this contract for 2 years saying you will be here for 2 years. And if you want to leave, give us our money back. I think it's just completely out of control. And this was nothing like when I was in school. Like obviously I transferred. I don't care if people transfer, but I think it's just gotten to a point of no return. And I'm just like, what is happening? How are you even graduating school? I think we're losing the plot, and student athlete is no longer applicable to a lot of these players. They are just an athlete because there's no way you are even close to graduation with how many times you're transferring. And I just think we're losing the reason why people are in college in the first place, which is to get your degree. But, that's neither here nor there if you're getting paid 200K to sit on a bench. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's and I wanted to ask that because you have a unique perspective, having been an athlete and been in that world. But me as only an observer, I hate it. I hate it.
yes.
I hate it. I was okay with the grad transfer thing. That was cool. I was okay with, but I just felt like the unrestricted. I just as soon as I heard you could transfer every year, I was like, yo, this is not good. And especially for, again, thinking about HBCUs, where, we've always, our best players have never really been because we had the most to offer them. It's always been because we found diamonds in the roughs and, cultivated them and everything like that. Like I was talking about, Earl Monroe, he was playing in the schoolyards and working a job, and he got a connection and went to WSSU. In his first year, he only scored 7 points a game, and of course he scored 41. He's a basketball Hall of Famer. So in this day and age, can you imagine somebody getting a kid and they only score 7 points a game, and they can score 30 a game, and they're going to just come back the next year? So I mean those days are long gone. And but I mean even they were long gone probably even by the time we got here. But as just as a fan of college basketball, I and as a journalist and covering it, I've seen so many guys and girls over the years where it's like they start and maybe they come in and start really good and then kind of have some ups and downs, and then when it's all over, they leave it all out on the court and they learn some lessons, and you could see their growth and evolution in one place. And not saying that it can't grow in another place, but it seems like it's very easy right now to just be like, okay, I'm not playing enough. I'm leaving. Oh, I scored 10 points in a game. I'm gonna leave. I don't know. I've had this thing like in football, if you make three first downs, you're gonna test the portal. If you in basketball, if you score 10 points, you're gonna in two games, oh yeah, now you should be in the portal. And it's like it was a joke, but it really I don't know how many, just going through your list of folks on the transfers, I don't know how many double digit scorers are coming back to their same HBCUs next year.
Mhm. I think
So,
one, touching on what you said, it's a lot of delusion going on. And players being fed things by these agents, these NIL managers, these representatives,
mhm,
saying that the grass is greener on the other side. And I made a tweet today. I said a lot of these players are going to be in for a rude awakening, not knowing they were scoring the way they were because of the system they were in, and the
mhm,
coach allowed them to play how they wanted to. That's not going to be the same way everywhere. We will probably see almost the top 15 scorers from the leagues gone, especially
mhm,
from the MEAC. The names I'm seeing from the MEAC, I for sure, as of right now, think for sure the top 15 are all in the portal.
mhm.
Which is insane to me because you were on a losing team. Your team won one game. Why are you in the portal? Like, I'm always curious about what goes through people's minds and if they're okay with ending up playing Division, which there's nothing wrong with D2, but are you okay with ending up playing NAI or being at home on your mom's
Yeah,
couch?
if they're lucky,
Because
yeah.
yes, because you're not only competing against other D1 transfers, you're competing against D2 transfers, NAI
Hmm.
transfers. Every year, like clockwork, the national NAI player of the year ends up on a D1 roster. The player of the year from every conference, if they still have eligibility, they're on a D1 roster. Or you're playing against your going JUCO players, which JUCO players, if you know, you know, it's just a different type of dog because you really have to get it out the mud at JUCO. So, and now foreign players. How many HBCU teams did we have foreigners on their team this year? Like quite
Yeah.
a
ANC
few.
had ANC
So
had a big guy who's in the portal.
yes. So I just think it's so much delusion of people thinking they're better than what they are. They can do better than, what they're doing. The grass is greener, everything that shine, like bigger fish, bigger pond, more money. Like everyone, it just seems a lot. I won't say everyone because it's not, but a lot of people are driven right now of amounts of money that are being told they can get. But if anyone pays attention, there are currently coaches who are being allegedly sued for not paying out the NIL money they promised to players. So,
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
it's definitely it's like you said, it's a genie that's not going inside the bottle. Yeah, I know. We talked about I always say this, and sometimes people don't like when I say this, but I always say everybody is where they are for a reason. And especially when everybody is where they are for a reason, and I think that, like you said, those illusions can sometimes make people think that like you said, the grass is greener, where it's like, you know. Most of the time, yeah, yeah, maybe you were under recruited, but you were under recruited for a reason, or you know what I mean. And
right,
somebody who's there where you are now took a chance on you, and that you didn't get there by yourself. And I just think
right.
it's definitely just a lot. So I know we did see that. Kiera, Mimi Wheeler, she is in the portal. A lot of talk about, people have already mailed her to Auburn, but we'll have to see on that. I know a couple other young ladies, Miss Richardson from Norfolk State, and there was another as well.
Bria.
Um, yeah, Debria in the portal as well. And obviously, coaching change, like you said, that's going to be one of those things where it's going to be kind of natural to see kind of, where you fit or wherever. But it's just again, it's something about seeing something. I think there's a developmental piece that the transfer portal has just totally taken out of college ball. So there's that. Who would be um, who would be a tra who? Let me name some of the transfers to me that you're really interested in, and that you think will be able to play at a high major level on either the men or women's side.
You're putting me on the spot.
I mean, they're not
Um,
saying that anybody else won't, but these are the
no,
people
yeah.
that you expect to see.
So pulling up my list for women, I definitely think we'll see Mimi Wheeler at a P4 school. I'm going to say this here, she's very much said she's exploring her options and she has not made a decision. And so I'm trying to stop that rhetoric from people blocking potential blessings for her that she feels is
Right.
best for her life. But I for sure think we see her at a P4 school. I really love AJ or Anjanae Richardson's game from Norfolk. I think she has the jump she made from freshman to sophomore year. I think she has this skill set. Obviously, I do think she would have to get in the weight room a little bit just based on like her body composition, but she has the
Hmm.
speed, the athleticism, the ball handling. I could see that happening. Whether or not it's following Vickers, I don't know, but I think the way she played against Maryland really made people take a look at her and be like, "Oh, wait, who is this? Who is this girl?" And then obviously the elephant in the room. Is it an elephant? We all knew he was leaving. Blake Harper. We know he's going Power Four. We know he's going somewhere big where the money's big. And I mean, no doubt, do you? I know in the article it did say he's leaving Howard as an option to return. So, we'll see. But
Man, listen, let's talk about this Blake Harper thing because I know you were at the MEAC for the first day and into the first night, and then you had to get ready to go. I think as that game was going on, you were over there talking with a friend Erica, who was very ecstatic about their chances of winning, and I was having a passionate argument with my guy Kobe. Who's part of the team over at HBCU Gameday, who did a great job helping us cover everything, and shout out to him. And they were just everybody, and I was sitting there arguing against the table. I was like, they were telling me oh nah, man, but Blake is special, man. Blake's different. This might be blah 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 blah, but he different, he different. And I'm like. Like, no, I mean, great guy. And then he gets in the press conference and he comes in there
that was it.
and
That was
he,
it.
yeah, you were in the press conference, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we're all sitting there like, there's no way that this guy is not going in the portal. He's just on the cover of, he just had a Sports Illustrated article about him. And he's talking like he's very savvy kid, very smart kid, very intelligent kid. Obviously, he's talking like a senior who's like just played his last game. Like, man, this was great. If I could
I'll
do it all
never
again.
forget these guys.
I'll never forget these guys. If I could do it all again, I would. Well,
You
the
could.
man, you can. You can, right? But, again, we all understand that, he's, in a position to really make a lot of money. So, it's just, even a school like Howard who has, dollars and resources, and I know they put up a really, they were really trying to do what they could to, kind of give him incentive to stay. I think just last week he and Coach Blakeney were talking, with Congress in front of Congress. So, one of those great opportunities that Howard affords you, but I mean, all of these kids, man, everybody is in their ears, like one of my favorite movies is He Got Game. Everybody's in their ears telling them, how great they are and all of this stuff. And, of course, oh, you scoring 20 point, you scored 20 here, you scored 20 there. And then you doing it against somebody, big time, like, I mean, everybody's telling them you bigger than this. You know what I mean? It just is. And it's like, I'm a grown man twice their age, and I don't know that I don't know that I could ignore it. You know what I mean? I damn sure couldn't ignore it. The money, that's for damn sure. But it's just a different thing. I know people were wishing on a star, but that was a long shot.
Yes. But I
So,
mean, the rest I'm kind of interested to see where they end up. I would say the one who Braylon Freeman from Bethune-Cookman, he got injured during the season. I think if he didn't, he most certainly would have been player of the year. No doubt about it. He got injured for a long stretch. He is a high major guy who came down. He's in the portal. I anticipate him going back to high major. Um, Everyone else, I'm kind of just like watching, seeing like, oh, where are you going to end up? Because I'm definitely going to see what your minutes look like because there are players who I know from last year, specifically men players who went to different schools who they thought who were giving them money and they barely play. And for some people, I don't know if it's a different mentality. When I was in school,
hmm
all and obviously money wasn't really like a very prominent thing, but all anyone cared about was minutes, minutes,
hmm
minutes, trying to be on the floor. And now people are okay being the team's number one cheerleader, sitting on the bench because they're getting paid to. So, we'll see where people end up. I know some coaches are like, once you go in, you cannot come back.
hmm
And other coaches are more lenient on that. And so you'll see withdrawals in the portal of players changing their minds. And I think HBCUs, a lot of them have to be more okay with that just because there are kids who are coming to conversations asking for 100K, asking for a season, and they're averaging 5 points from a losing team where they're coming from. So it's like give and take of are you going to give that kid the freedom to make choice and come back, or are you closing that door completely so you can move on? I understand both perspectives as a coach, but it's going to be interesting to see where people the actual offers. I want to make that clear. Offers. People can reach out all they want. That's a coach's job is to reach out. So when I see these tweets, oh, they have interest from this school, this school, this school, a text. Ooh, you got a text. What are they talking about? Are you actually going on a visit? Or are they just seeing what the temperature is? Because that's what it feels like when people have 30 schools that reached out to them the day they hit the portal. Like, I don't know. So I'm very intrigued to see where a lot of these players end up. And I wish they would have candid conversations about where they thought they were going to be and where they actually are going to be. So it's a crazy, crazy world we're living in with that portal now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm definitely going to be looking to see my guy Katron KC Shaw from Maryland Eastern Shore. I know he just hit the portal today.
Salute,
He
brother.
yeah, he and his brother Kyrell, who I followed him from his high school career, and then obviously he was here at Winston-Salem State for 2 years, and came with Coach Hill, and I thought he had some really big games early on in the non-conference against some teams like ODU and things like that, and so
Mhm.
it's going to be really interesting to see him. I know this year he gained some weight and filled out a little bit. And it's gonna be interesting to see him. I can definitely see him playing with a really solid mid-major. I'm a little bit biased because I'm quite a bit biased, but I like his game quite a bit, and I know he's a good young man. And his brother can shoot too, so it's gonna be interesting to
I,
see.
his brother, I actually think will pan out to have a more lucrative. Obviously, if you know the Shaw brothers, their body types are completely different, but also Casey's way older, so he's been in the weight room a little more.
Yeah,
But
because
because
Casey didn't look like that 3 years ago. Casey
right,
didn't look like that. So yeah, definitely. He's been hitting the weight. So if he gets in there with a solid weight training thing, I think he's gonna be better. One of the guys that's killing it right now in the G League, is Javante Cook, who played at Winston for his last year, and he kind of has a similar game to him. I don't, Casey's not quite the shooter that Javante is, but it'll definitely be interesting for those guys and just yeah. But it's again for a school like Maryland Eastern Shore or like Coppin State. It's tough, man. It's like every year. It's like I mean, all of the. I mean, even Norfolk State. You know, Harper, Brian.
Brian
Um,
Ford, Jalen Myers, Chris Fields. Those are three for sure names that I know hit the portal that were big contributors to their system. I think with Jones, though, I'm not as worried because I've seen how quick he can like
yeah.
read his ship. He's a his team, his whole coaching staff are great recruiters. I get worried about a UMES and a Coppin just because I'm like, how can they get steady when they're constantly like, reloading? So I
Even
don't know.
Central, Po Boy
Yeah,
has left the
yeah,
building. It's just a tough time all the way around for these programs. And that's why, I asked Coach Jones about Christian Ings because, he was there for 4 years.
mhm.
And like he said, he's one of the guys, he could have tried to transfer before, but I guess you need kind of some of those glue guys that, I don't know. It's just interesting to see, how many kids stick around and how many kids. It's just so easy to get lured out by that portal. So, not. And then there's also coaching searches. We talked
So
about Norfolk State. We talked about we potentially Coppin State if their coach gets gone. Alabama State just opened up today on the women's side as well. Alabama A&M on the men's side. Um,
Prairie A&M women are open because Sandy Pugh retired.
yep. Morgan
Um,
State.
Yep. So there's a lot open at the Division 1 level, and I think we'll see possibly 2 to 3 more open up. I wish schools would move faster though. Like you're wasting time. Time's a ticking. Let's go. Because we're wasting valuable time here, people, of one, going through the process. You knew not for the people who are retiring, but for people that you're doing the resign.
Well,
That's what we're
some retirees knew early down the
Yes.
road, right down the road here in Winston. Coach Lamont announced back in February, in January that she was leaving.
But Winston, I know they've been on their search of knowing because she's been very vocal about that. And so like it's Winston's open. I thought I saw someone, but it's not a credible.
Uh, was it Bennett? I messed it up. Because you corrected me about it. It was Miles. Miles, was it Miles or Benedict? They got the same colors. I mixed them up a lot, but they're women's coach.
Possibly. I don't know.
Um, I think it was the coach from Benedicto, the women's coach. So yeah, and then Johnson C. Smith, obviously they had the coaching change during the season. They did win the BCIC last week. So congratulations to them on that. But they got to make their decisions as well. And there's a lot of talented coaches there, men and women, looking to really make their mark. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. So we'll live. I don't want to keep you any longer than that. I'm sure that is the game over yet.
It is. They lost in overtime by 2, but a very
Ah,
good, very, very good game. Losing by 2 in overtime is heart shattering, but they were right there. So, and their best
yeah,
player fouled out, so they stuck with it for a very long time because Layla Lawrence was in foul trouble. But shout out to Coppin for Coppin, all the teams in postseason who did their thing. So, we may be hearing an announcement tomorrow. Who knows? That could be what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Well, Liv, I appreciate you so much. It was great to get a chance to chop it up with you at the tournaments. And then thank you again for coming on here. And always appreciate you. Let folks know if they don't know where they can follow you and all the different places.
You can follow me, Liv For Hoops, like LIVFOR, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm only on those three, but that's where I'm at. If you care about HBCU basketball or keeping up with everything going on in the basketball space.
Yep, yep. You filling all the lanes. You're filling all the lanes, and we appreciate you. All right, guys.
Thank
Catch you
you.
guys later. Peace.